a Linton microwave, a Cuisinart, Michelin tires, and a brand new set of Sears Spectrometric. And do 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 do. People say that I'm crazy, but I'm not that way. In fact, I know what I know, and I'll happily show. Movie madness is all in the mind. Movie madness is all in the mind. Hey, welcome to Lost Movie Madness with Akeem and friends. Again, I have no friends today, so it's just me. And today, I decided I was going to talk about one of those films that nobody ever talks about anymore. That's why it's a lost movie. And today, we're going to talk about Bachelor Party in 1984, starring Tom Hanks, Adrian Zmed, William Tepper, and Tawny. Now, to get started off, I'll tell you about the movie like I always do. I grab the wiki plot. Party animal Rich Gasco, Tom Hanks, who makes a living as a Catholic school bus driver, decides to settle down and marry his girlfriend, Debbie Thompson, or the lovely Tawny Katane. After learning the news of his engagement, Rick's shocked friends, led by Jay, decide to throw him an epic bachelor party. And the bride's wealthy conservative parents are unhappy with her decision, and her father enlists Debbie's ex-boyfriend, Cole Whittier, starring Robert Prescott, to sabotage their relationship with Rick and win her back. While Debbie worries and goes off to a bridal shower thrown by her friend, Rick heads to the bachelor party, which takes place in a lavish, spacious hotel suite, and promises to remain faithful. Both parties start off on the wrong foot because Cole's met her. As the bachelor party starts to heat up, Debbie and the girls decide to get even with Rick and his friends by having a party of their own. Both parties eventually collide, leaving Debbie accused Rick of infidelity. The Bachelor becomes a wild controversy and military track, which infuriates a frustrated manager. Adding to the confusion, Rick's friend Brad, who had become despondent over the breakup of his marriage, botches several suicide attempts. When Brad tries to slit his wrist with an electric razor, it says, "Well, at least your wrist will be smooth and kissable." Rick convinces Debbie of his love and faithfulness, just as the party is raided by police. Thus ensuing, and then and Debbie becomes separated. Cole kidnaps Debbie. So Rick and his friends chase after them. And the chase culminates in the showdown between Rick and Cole in the 36th screen movie theater, with a fist fight taking place in synchronization with a similar fight shown on a 3D film projected behind them. The audience believes that it's a real fight and extraordinary 3D effect. Rick wins the fight and is reunited with Debbie. After the wedding, Rick and Debbie are driving to the airport for their honeymoon in Rick's school bus, which is driven by a laughing Brad. Well, that's what happens in the movie. I mean, it's not Citizen Kane. None of my movies are. Citizen Kane is 3 hours long. It is unwatchable. It's not great. But I decided to do this movie because there's a set of movies that, lack of a better word, Tom Hanks has disowned. Tom Hanks was in so many funny movies in the 80s. And obviously, he starred in Bosom Buddies, which was where he got his big break. Him and, oh, the guy from Newhart that he was in it. I can't remember his name. Played these two guys who could not afford apartments in New York. And they ended up pretending to be women because they found an all women's building that allowed them to. I'm watching the movie, I'm sorry, to rent and be able to afford it. So him and the guy, they pretend to be women, and it's all the hijinks that would come from something like that in very early 80s ways. And this is an 80s film. Bachelor Party is very in of its time, very Americana, very masculine, and it ends with him saving the damsel in distress. But there is a charm that Tom Hanks had that was indefinable. He still has it. He just doesn't do funny movies anymore. That's the other thing. Like between this and Turner and Hooch and Dragnet. He made a lot of comedy films, and then he gets Philadelphia and he gets Gump, and it's all sort of drama. There's a great episode of Hancock's Half Hour, which sidebar. If you ever get a chance to listen or watch any of Hancock's Half Hour, do yourself a favor. Hancock's Half Hour in the 1950s. Tony Hancock, the British comedian, who sadly took his own life in 1967. But in the early days of British sitcoms, Tony Hancock was doing a great thing. He was hilarious. Well, Tony Hancock does this episode called The Impersonator, and he has decided that he's no longer going to do comedy. He's going to do the serious stuff because serious stuff is what gets you respected. People give you a tug of the forelock and says, "Good morning, sir." They don't say to you, "Hey, big head," because that's what people call you. And his friend tells him that that's because people like you and people want to be your friend. He says, "I don't want to be like that. I want to be taken seriously. I just want to give people some limp hand waves." And then Sidney James, his partner, makes a fairly homophobic joke, but it's the 1950s, so not that you can excuse it, but it's the 1950s, so that just goes territory. But anyway, I feel like Tom Hanks went through a similar time. Decided that he no longer wanted to do the comedy and he wanted to be a respected actor. Much like Jim Carrey with Man on the Moon and what's the other one? Man on the Moon. He did. He also did a couple other serious things. I don't know because Jim Carrey was never great in his serious stuff. He was really good with the comedic stuff. He's got that stretchy face, and that's really where his bread and butter lied. But Lloyd Christmas, come on, man, Jim, what are you doing? But Truman Show, the Truman Show, he was a straight man. He was not very comedic, although um, it left a delible impression upon me. Good afternoon, good evening. If I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, good night. It's one of those things that has stuck with me in the 20 some years that it's been since I saw that movie. Truman Show, underrated, very much of its time, but I think we live with a lot of things that the Truman Show indicated were going to be the case. Cameras everywhere, people living their lives and being watched. I'm sorry, I can't see, so I'm going to put my glasses on, even though they seem to be causing a glare. I might grab another pair of my glasses so I can actually see. This is what happens with age, folks. You end up not being able to see properly. And the more you wear glasses, the less you're able to see without. So that's always helpful. Sidebar. I prided myself on being able to see without glasses forever because the rest of my family wore glasses. But at 44, apparently, that is no longer a thing for me. And I fought it for so long. I said, I didn't need glasses. It was just the glare on the lights, and maybe my windshield was dirty. And it turns out, no. I called the doctor, and the doctor said, "Oh, well, with age, the muscles around your eyes atrophy." And if you're unfamiliar with the word atrophy means that your muscle has died and is not coming back. There's nothing you can do to rebuild those muscles. So apparently my muscles have atrophied. I'm sorry. That's a sidebar. Stop. To the movie, uh, to Bachelor Party, and essentially Tom Hanks plays a slob, and he's great. He is very charismatic, very funny. You can see why uh, Tony could pick like him. He's just charm personified, and he goes to his bachelor party. He's falling in love. His friends can't believe it. His big brother, who's married to somebody who he also works with the same practice, the doctor. She's the doctor. Apparently, she's a proctologist. She's giving a man a prostate exam in the beginning of this. Which, I mean, I guess anybody can be a proctologist, but usually I don't think women tend to be. Maybe wrong about that. My friend, Dr. B, could tell me about that. I had to ask her what he said. But anyway, um, she's a proctologist. She works with them. Case in point, here's the thing. It's always great to have your own space in a relationship. I'm a big believer in that. Not to be with somebody 24/7. It takes a very strong couple to be able to do those things. Be with somebody 24/7 and have no separation, uh, can is codependent, but also can always take the mystery and not being money all the time. As much as you might enjoy their company, sometimes you need your own space. I'm a big believer in you have your own space, I have my own space. Come together, we enjoy each other's time, but space. Although I may be wrong about that. Okay, not the main thing. His brother hates his wife, and the little guy was a bigger star in the '80s than I think anybody care. Great. Uh, also was which is Shatner with all the things. So, back. I'm back. For some reason, I lost some video, but I'm back, and I'm not going to edit this. I don't think. I probably will actually. So, Adrian Zmed was in a lot of stuff, and he's good looking. And for some reason, in the mid '80s, he replaced Danny Terrio, the host of Dance Fever, for the final two seasons, which is just weird. Um, Dance Fever, for anybody who knows, is something to look up for in the mid '80s. So they're red-blooded American men, and they're going to have a bachelor party. And they go hire some hookers, and they throw a party, and they get a donkey, which could go sideways in so many ways. Uh, Donkey shows, even for the '80s, were not okay. And if you've ever seen one, you can't unsee a donkey show. Uh, I would suggest you do not look for one because they are hard to forget. The dark places in the internet will show you many things. Uh, I would suggest you not do that. Anyway, so they get a donkey and they're having this massive party, and the father doesn't want his daughter to marry him, and she doesn't trust him, and in the end, they're having this big blowout, and he proves his worth to her by standing up and says to everybody in the room, "Have I had sex with anybody in this room?" And they all go, "No." And apparently, that's enough for her. Uh, there's a lot of women in this movie, just like any good late 70s, early 80s film. This was made in 1984. Uh, if it had an R rating, you were going to see some tits. Nothing much really else in it. I mean, America was a different place than it is now, but it's just uh, some titties. That's it. Nobody's getting killed. Nobody's being maimed. Nobody's having anything else happen to it. But I think there was no comics code, so to speak, in the early 80s, but they had decided that they weren't making, the things that were pushing the edges anymore. They were making family Americana films. The 70s had ruined, with 70s excesses, had ruined all sorts of adult themes. If you ever seen Chapter 2, or which is a great film. Um, I didn't think it's a Neil Simon film. Um, it's just really, really good. But uh, when you watch this movie, you got to remember that this was made in just a weird climate. Parents are super conservative. The mother and the girls end up at a strip club, and the boys also end up there, and they end up uh, putting super glue on the penis of the stripper, who's got a large penis, and the mother uh, grabs a hold of it. She's just shocked by having another penis in her hand, which, I mean, even let's face it, that's not a real thing. Um, Also, a penis is a penis. There's nothing particularly special about one or the other. So, you know, to have somebody glue your penis and have somebody grab a hold of it, I don't think anybody's doing. But we got to suspend some reality here. Also, in the end, there's a fight. He tries to steal Tony Katane, which is weird. The ex-boyfriend tries to steal her, and they end up fighting over her, and she's just sort of a damsel in distress. Which brings me to some of the things that are disturbing in this movie. Tawny Katane really doesn't have any agency. They're just ciphers for the men. All they care about is whether their men are, you know, having sex. That's it. There's no sort of agency. They're not having fun their own. All they can do is obsess about the men in their lives. The wife, she ends up really beating her husband up, which is a bit disturbing. You know, uh, home violence. I can't remember the name for the life of me right now. Physical violence against a spouse, whether it's male or female, is not okay. Um, I don't really care what happens. Physical violence is never okay. If you don't want him, leave him. That's good enough. Take him for all he's worth. But to beat him up the way she did, awful. I mean, um, even in the '80s, we wouldn't take that the other way. It's not good that way. The aunt whose husband left her ends up uh, sleep with a bunch of Asian men because apparently she's insatiable, uh, which is not really awesome. I don't think uh, necessarily that's a thing. You know, even if you hate men, which she's being shown to do, just throwing yourself at like 8 Asian businessmen. The Asian businessmen also not a great portrayal. Uh, There's a bunch of Asian men who, in their boxer shorts, they're obviously businessmen on a trip, and they don't speak English, but all they want is these women who they chase around the room, even though they obviously show that they are not interested in being there. Uh, Problematic in that way that uh, early '80s, very problematic. The Asian community, um, not great. So, among the things I didn't care for were the portrayal of women, which is usually the case in anything before about 10 years ago. The portrayal of women, the portrayal of Asian, the one black guy in the movie is a pimp, which again, the one black woman in the movie is a hooker who ends up at the party, and she doesn't show up at the main party, at the bachelorette party. She doesn't show up at the main party. You know, uh, just not great. And the hookers don't ask any questions; they're just usable. And then portrayal of the transgender person, also not great. Uh, Very crying game esque. I don't know if anybody's ever seen a crying game, or there's seen a crying game where one day I've got to do the crying game. Crying Game's a great movie, but the reaction to find out that Jay is transgender is not great. It is cringe worthy. Um, but you know, these things happen. And the crying game is like 1990. Uh, I guess they were as sensitive as Irish people could be in 1990. The Crying Game, fantastic film. Fantastic film. Miranda Richardson's in it. She's amazing. But Miranda Richardson's in everything. If you've ever seen Blackadder, Blackadder 2. By the way, Blackadder, by far, Rowan Atkinson's greatest work. Blackadder, starting with season 2 through season 4. Season 1's Blackadder, amazing. Uh, six six episodes a season. The last 18 are absolutely amazing. The first six, but you get a romp through British history. None of it really connects with actual British history, but Hugh Laurie's in it, Stephen Fry, Rowan Atkinson, Miranda Richardson, the guy who plays Baldrick. Oh, for the life of me, I can't remember his name. But you want to see Hugh Laurie? Uh, Again, another actor who, in his early days, did only comedy. Hugh Laurie is amazing, from Blackadder to a bit of Fry and Laurie to um, the Jeeves of Worcester series that he did with Stephen Fry. By the way, if you ever get a chance to read any P.G. Wodehouse, just amazing. P.G. Wodehouse, just mwah, just mid-century British tops being rescued by his manservant, who is so much more than him. Bertie Wooster and Jeeves, Reginald Jeeves. So Jeeves in the morning, Joy in the morning, Carry On Jeeves, any of those. What Ho Jeeves, any of those books. Or you could watch Jeeves and Wooster on YouTube. It's really amazing. So anyway, back to Bachelor Party. Um, it's really disturbing how Cole tries to steal her. Like that's a thing. I don't know what time in America this was that you could steal a woman. And I guess she ends up with you. But I don't believe that's how it works, even then. So, um, no is not no, apparently, for these people, which has a many disturbing connotations. Anyway, Bachelor Party. Fun movie. If you want to have a fun time, or if you're about to get married, or think about getting married, and want to have a romp with your friends, much better to watch this Bachelor Party than to actually attend it. Now, let's see. What are the ratings for this thing? Um, the reception, it's got a 54% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is about right. Um, it was called Robert Ebert also said it was sophomoric and not a great film, which you know you're right. It's dumb. It's not really good representation of anything. It's stupid. It's got a 6.3 out of 10 out of IMDb, and 86% of Google watchers um, like this movie. It's likable, And here's the thing: I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and in the end, really, all they asked me if I was a critic, and I said no, I'm not a critic. I like movies. I like to enjoy them. There's nothing better than sitting and just enjoying watching a movie. You don't have it doesn't have to be the greatest film. It doesn't have to be, high theater. Did you enjoy watching it? And I enjoyed watching the film. It's not a great film. It's very stupid. It's problematic in ways that all 80s movies are problematic, but it's fun. You know, you can watch Tom Hanks be funny before he gave that all up, which is always a plus. And with that, that was Lost Movie Madness with Akeem and Friends. Thank you so much for watching. Listen, if you like what you heard and you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave me a kind message on whatever platform you're watching this on. You can subscribe to me on any podcatcher and please leave me a thumbs up or a review or even tell me I suck, which is great. Just anything. Shout out to my friend Sydney if she watched this. I know you no longer work with me, but I know you subscribe to my YouTube. Thank you so much for listening, and you have a great day. People say that I'm crazy, but I'm not that way in fact. I know what I know, and I'll happily show. Movie madness is all in the mind. Movie madness is